Have you ever wondered what it's like to look for love again when you're older? To open your heart after loss, hoping to find someone to walk with in your final chapters of life? Today, I want to share the real and touching story of Mr. Tan, a man who bravely searched for companionship in his 60s. His journey brought moments of joy, heartbreak, and some powerful life lessons that might help many of us. So please stay with me until the end. You may find something in Mr. Tan's story that speaks directly to your own heart. Mr. Tan is 65 years old. He lost his wife many years ago in a tragic accident when he was just 45. They had been married for nearly 2 decades, and she had been the love of his life. After she passed away, Mr. Tan focused all his energy on raising their 2 children. Remarrying never crossed his mind back then. For years, he worked hard and lived simply. When his children grew up and got married, he retired and moved into a quiet home living alone. At first, he enjoyed the freedom. He could sleep whenever he wanted, travel, eat what he liked. But soon, the silence started to grow louder. The joy of solitude turned into the ache of loneliness. His children rarely visited. The house began to feel empty. Simple things, like having a cup of tea or watching the sunset, felt sad without someone to share them with. That's when he realized he didn't want to be alone anymore. He wanted someone to talk to, someone to laugh with, someone to grow old with. Through a friend, Mr. Tan met a woman named Mrs. Mai. She was 62, kind, gentle, and full of life. She had also lived alone for many years. They understood each other from the start. They began meeting regularly, talking, walking, and even cooking together. Mrs. Mai helped clean his home and brought fresh energy into his days. For the first time in years, Mr. Tan felt hopeful again. After 6 months of knowing each other, he proposed marriage. His children supported the idea. He trusted Mrs. Mai deeply. He even gave her control of his savings and promised that she could have his house after he passed away. He was ready for a new chapter. But just 5 days after their wedding, something unexpected happened. Mrs. Mai complained that Mr. Tan had a strange smell. She said it was strong, unpleasant, and made her feel uncomfortable. Mr. Tan was shocked and embarrassed. He had never heard this from anyone before. He showered thoroughly, used scented soap, bought expensive cologne, but nothing worked. Mrs. Mai kept saying the smell made her feel sick. Mr. Tan tried sleeping in a separate room to avoid conflict, but the tension only grew. By the 5th day, during a heated argument, Mr. Tan said something he hadn't wanted to. "If you really can't bear living with me, then perhaps we should separate." The next morning, Mrs. Mai quietly packed her things and left. And just like that, the marriage was over. Mr. Tan was heartbroken. He had put his trust, his hope, and his heart into that relationship. Now, he was alone again, this time feeling even more vulnerable than before. But as days passed, he began to see things more clearly. He realized that love in old age isn't just about companionship. It's about deep understanding, patience, and accepting one another's flaws. Not everyone is ready for that, and not every story has the happy ending we expect. Mr. Tan learned some powerful lessons. Remarriage in later life is not just about comfort, it's about compatibility. You must truly understand and accept each other's habits, health, and aging bodies. Don't rush into decisions, especially with finances. Give yourself and your partner time to grow into the relationship slowly. Loneliness is hard, but not every solution will ease it. Sometimes being alone is better than being misunderstood. Respect yourself. Even when others walk away, don't lose faith in your worth. Always leave room for hope. There might still be someone out there who sees you fully and loves you anyway. Scene, wisdom for viewers. If you're watching this and you're in your 60s, 70s, or beyond, remember this. Love is still possible. But it takes more than a kind smile. It takes honesty, patience, and a willingness to grow together. If you've been hurt or rejected, don't let it define you. Heal, breathe, keep living with an open heart. And if you're not ready for love again, that's okay too. There's peace in finding joy in your own company. Mr. Tan is still living alone today, but he's not bitter. He waters his plants, goes for walks, reads books, and occasionally smiles at a stranger passing by. He says, "If love comes again, I'll welcome it. But if it doesn't, I will still live with kindness." His story reminds us that it's never too late to open your heart, but it's also okay to protect it. We're all just doing our best with the time we've been given. Mr. Tan's story doesn't end with sadness. In fact, it becomes more meaningful from here. After the divorce, he spent many quiet days alone, thinking, reflecting, healing. At first, it felt like a failure, but slowly, he began to understand something deeper. Sometimes, the people we meet in life are not meant to stay forever. They come to teach us something about love, about pain, or about ourselves. Mrs. Mai showed Mr. Tan that he still had a heart capable of feeling. Even though it ended quickly, their short time together reminded him that he was still alive. He could still feel joy, still hope, still try. That in itself is a gift. He began to take better care of himself, not just physically, but emotionally. He learned to enjoy the silence again. He found peace in small things, a fresh breeze in the morning, the sound of birds outside his window, the soft light of the sun as it sets. He even joined a small community club for seniors in his town. Every week he met people his age, some widowed, some divorced, some never married. They laughed, they played cards, they shared meals and memories. And through these small gatherings, Mr. Tan found something he hadn't expected: friendship. Not the romantic kind, but the kind that makes your heart feel light. Dear friend, maybe you're like Mr. Tan, someone who is loved deeply and lost. Maybe you've tried to start over and it didn't go the way you hoped. Or maybe you've been too afraid to try. But here's something important to remember. Life after 60 is not the end of your story. It's a different chapter, a quieter one maybe, but still full of meaning. And you get to decide what happens in it. Love doesn't always come in the form of marriage or romance. Sometimes it comes through companionship, through neighbors who wave, through grandchildren who visit, through friends who call just to check in. Sometimes the love you need the most is the one you give yourself. Mr. Tan also learned something else. not to expect too much from his children. Yes, they loved him, but they had their own lives, busy, complicated, full of responsibilities. He stopped feeling hurt when they didn't visit often. Instead, he focused on making his own days meaningful. He cooked for himself, he exercised, and he kept his mind active. And slowly, without pressure or guilt, his children started calling more. Because they saw that he wasn't a burden, he was living with strength and dignity. If you're watching this and you feel forgotten, please know you are not alone. There are people like Mr. Tan everywhere. People who once felt broken but picked themselves up again. You can find joy in this stage of life through small daily routines, new hobbies, friendships, or even by simply being kind to yourself. If this story touched your heart, please leave a comment below. Let us know what you learned. Have you had a similar experience? Are you still hoping for love? Or have you found peace in solitude? Your story matters too. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real stories and heartfelt lessons about life after 60. Thank you for watching.